What is up, parents? Kenan here with another parent resource coming to you from my faithful office. I'm so excited that we are back and that we are still able to gather, even though the governor has laid out some new restrictions and things, but for our intents and purposes, we are operating the same way that we've been operating, and that's such a joy for us. As we met this week, one of the things we talked about was we actually talked about Jesus for the first time in this Bible story. Because see, before this, we've been talking about the Old Testament up until this point and the anticipation of awaiting this godly king. But see, now that we have Jesus on the scene, we can finally talk about Jesus in his entirety. So we talked about the king arrives, and we are so excited to be able just to simply talk about Jesus coming. Because as we've looked at God's story all the way from Genesis up until this point, really it's been this consistent theme of we need a savior. And what we're seeing is actually that this savior, he's come. That there's good news, there's hope that's given to the people of Israel because of Jesus. So as we looked at the story of the Old Testament and now we look at the story of Jesus, one of the key things when we talk about God's story is actually learning our story and how it fits into God's story. So really the question that we prompted our students with and our leaders with, and I want to prompt you with as parents, is have you told your story? So we know that stories are incredibly powerful. That's why God wrote his story as a story, for something for us to read and to wrestle with and to glean things from the story itself. It's such an incredible thing for us to be able to do. And that's why the story is so important. So my question for you is, have you ever shared your story? Have you ever shared your story with your student? Have you ever shared your story in its entirety with your children? I think this is an awesome way for us as parents to be able to show God's goodness and his grace by sharing what God has done in our lives. Now, I know that it may be uncomfortable because some of us have a rougher story, especially the way that it all started out. And you don't have to share all of it in the beginning, but share your story. Be honest about what you have experienced before Christ or even experienced with Christ. But the most important thing is to say, this is what happens when we operate outside of the will of God, and this is what happens in our lives when we do. This is so powerful for our children, students to hear, because what it does is it gives them permission to say, look, this is a journey, but if we focus on Jesus, that is what truly matters. And in a powerful way, for us as parents, this is actually sharing the gospel with our kids, because our kids then begin to see that it doesn't always look perfect, it always doesn't look glamorous, but what it is, it's always focused on Jesus. So that's my encouragement for this week, is take some time, sit down, and just simply share your story. It can be a powerful time of sharing the goodness of Jesus with our kids in a way in which it truly allows them to get to know us on a deeper level, but it gets them to know Jesus on a deeper level. And isn't that the ultimate goal of discipleship, is to lead our kids toward Jesus? I hope you found this helpful. I encourage you and I pray that you to exercise this week and just sit down and again, share your testimony, share your story. And I know it's gonna be a blessing for you. I know it's gonna be a blessing for your children, and it's gonna be a blessing for your family. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much for another parent resource. Tune in and we'll see you next week.